Mike St. Hilaire, welcome.
Thanks a lot, Cam.
Good to have you.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
You fucking legend. Everyone, I've been wanting to get Mike on since I started this. Mike is a real interesting guy. We're going to learn about him. But he's worked on a lot of TV shows. He's done a lot of cool shit. And yeah, this is one I've been very excited about. I asked you from the very beginning. I've been like trying to get you on. So yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for coming.
I'm fired up about it too, because I remember when I met you, and I remember I used to work on Survivor, but there was a lot of Australians, and you were like easy to I don't know, whatever. It just brought me back.
Yeah, nice, man. So tell me, one of the things I'm really interested about you is your TV experience. So tell me in a nutshell, Mike, like some of the shows that you've worked on, because I know you've just worked on shitloads.
Tons, yeah. I mean, reality stuff.
Yeah.
So I kind of rode that reality wave back in it was like the late 1990s. So. When I was still in college, actually, but there was a show called Bug Juice, and there wasn't a lot of reality. It was a new genre of television. And so, I wasn't even done school. I got on this one show while I was in college for the summer, which was like the Real World for kids at summer camp, and then next thing you know, it was Survivor and Temptation Island and Bachelor and all these programs that were just taking off. So I kind of rode the beginning wave of the entire reality television.
Wow.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I got no complaints. I lived a pretty cool life. So.
Dude, I mean, that is like a career that people would dream of. I mean, it's just, and all the people you would have met and the places you've been, especially Survivor.
Survivor was a good one for that, or Amazing Race,
you did Amazing Race.
Name an adventure reality show, and more than likely I did. I didn't do Naked and Afraid. That's on my list. That one's on my list.
And you worked on the Apprentice as well.
I did The Apprentice for I think 9 seasons of that. So, you can thank me for your president.
Well, I'm actually a Trump guy.
Yeah, I like
Trump.
Pretty indifferent. He was a nice guy to me. I only talked to him one time, and it was about baseball because the first 2 seasons of The Apprentice were during the Red Sox, Yankees 2003, 2004 seasons. Mm-hmm. So, the big comeback. I don't know if you know anything about that.
Not much, no.
Yeah, I didn't think so. But that was the only time. The only thing I ever talked to Trump about was one time about baseball, and he seemed like a pretty nice guy. I don't know. People hate him now, but
yeah, but people have been made to hate him. Like if you look at a lot of the media has been deliberately focused at destroying him over the last decade. So, I mean, since he first got in presidency, the attacks on him just were vicious, constantly vicious. I mean, there was certainly a bias against him.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that side of the media for sure, kind of biased against him, but I just meant with people I worked with. It seemed like people liked him well enough when everybody was getting paid, and then as soon as he ran for president, I mean, first of all, it did a couple hundred of us lost our jobs because, Schwarzenegger did 1 season, but, that was a good gig. The Apprentice was a good gig.
Schwarzenegger did a season of The Apprentice?
He did. When Trump was running, Schwarzenegger did a season out in California.
I didn't know that. That's funny as.
And he was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a lot nicer than, well, not that Trump wasn't nice, but he was just a businessman. I was intimidated. I didn't want to go hang out with Trump.
Fair enough. Yeah, he's a bigwig.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's pull it back for a sec. So, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Maine.
Okay. For people who don't know, Australians, where is Maine?
Maine is it's like the most northeastern state. It's just under Canada. It's a little bit chillier.
So it's cold as fuck there.
Yeah, it's like a mini Alaska.
Kinda.
Okay. But not juiced up.
Yeah, nice. And what was your childhood like? What was it like growing up in Maine?
Pretty good. I grew up in a trailer park, divorced parents, the several divorces between all of them, but which I do as a joke now.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. I mean, it was a pretty normal childhood, just cold. Didn't have a lot of money. I wanted to travel. I knew I wanted to travel when I was young, and I didn't know if I'd always have that opportunity. And then somehow I ran it into this business, which was good.
Amazing.
Growing up, I don't know, it was pretty kind of sheltered, I guess. I didn't do a whole lot.
Do a lot of people in Maine ski and snowboard just because of the climate?
Yeah, and hockey. Hockey was a big thing in my town, but we didn't have a lot of money for that, and all those were pretty expensive sports. I mean, I play a little bit of pond hockey here and there, but it wasn't, I ran track. I played baseball in the summer, kind of thing.
Just a standard life.
Yeah, standard life. Played soccer, which I'm embarrassed about.
I played.
I hate soccer.
I love soccer, but soccer, they've ruined soccer. Like the fakies. Do you guys call them fakies? Like when the guys fall over and like, oh, my leg.
Yeah.
Just like that shit has ruined the sport for me.
It's acting, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I got no time for that.
If I want to watch soccer, I'll just watch it on skates with people hitting each other. Bunch of frozen sticks,
So then you went to college. Was college in Maine?
No, I went to Emerson College, which is a film and television, or I studied writing there.
Writing?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was like a film school.
Okay.
And one of my buddies, I was in a frat that I got kicked out of, and he worked on that bug juice job. One of the guys that they had, one of the locals in Maine over the summer that they had hired, was real shitty. He quit the job. I don't know what happened. And I was a drunk. I mean, I was a big drinker in school.
Is that why you got kicked out of your frat?
It had something to do with that. Yeah. Yes. Stealing kegs from the frat, but. But my buddy was like, dude, you wanted this job? He's like, you just can't fuck it up. He's like, it's my reputation, whatever. And I did the first season of it, and I was like, man, this is gonna be.
What did you do? What was your role?
I was a PA.
And what is Bug Juice for people that don't know?
So Bug Juice, it was a Disney Channel show. It was like pitched as the real world for kids at summer camp.
So basically, what kids kids at summer camp, you're recording them playing around,
documenting what they're doing, and then they had ones that were like, I'm trying to remember the words they used for maybe scholarship kids or people from like inner cities that didn't fit in as well, where they'd come to camp and learn how to swim. It was really like it was a great show because it would show the good side of humanity. These kids excelling, overcoming obstacles, you know what I mean?
And did you feel that energy when you were there? Like,
yeah, it was great. It was being at summer camp.
Yeah,
I couldn't afford a summer camp when I was a kid, but like it was at.
So
summer
you played
camp.
with it? Did you like play with the kids and just like get it? Like, did you?
Well, when you're filming them,
Mm-hmm.
you're not really allowed to, especially back in those days, really integrate too much with the subject.
Right.
A little bit, but
You want to deliberately have a bit of segregation?
there needs to be a line,
Okay,
right?
gotcha.
To a degree, anyway. But for the crew, it was sort of the same thing. And we were living the summer camp experience too, and we were in different teams, and we were playing pranks on each other, and it felt like being at summer camp. And I was like, this is the career I want to get into. I was like, this seems better. I was working at a factory, and I get that call, and my dad's like, I don't know, you got this good factory job, you just beat the drug test, you're gonna.
You just beat the drug test, Mike. Don't fuck this up.
Don't fuck this one up. And I was like, I don't know, I think this might give me a chance to travel. So, I took a chance, and then they did a couple other seasons, and like I said, the reality wave kind of took off right then. This was like the late 1990s.
Yeah.
99, something like that.
So did you finish college?
I walked away and I wasn't done, and then I went back to school in 2012 to get my degree.
Right.
Because I just
For writing?
for creative writing.
Okay,
Because
cool.
I wanted to I took enough loans out when I was getting the degree. I was
Yeah.
like, I want this piece of paper.
Fair enough. Okay, so then Bug Juice, that was the launch of your career. Now, what were you doing on Bug Juice? What was your role?
I was a PA, which is a production assistant.
Uh-huh.
And back then, for reality, we really did everything. We were basically more like camera assistants, where we'd carry like batteries and tapes, follow the camera people around. If they needed to change the battery or tape, you give them that. You take the other ones, go charge them. You'd write notes on what's on the tapes. I mean, back then we did a lot more than what people do today, for sure.
Because
It's more
everything would have
unionized
been VCR,
It was beta tapes. We were using beta tapes.
beta tapes, which is.
They look like VCR
Okay.
tapes, basically. Yeah.
And how many hours can you get out of a tape?
I think those loads were like a half an hour back. This was
So
the
you're
90s.
so you're just constantly you would do a season and you would have thousands of these fucking tapes.
Thousands.
And that you've got to label them, you've got to put them all in order. There would have to be a lot of organization.
Imagine how it is just editing this.
Yeah.
Imagine it with 6 cameras on different shifts at different times, shooting 15 tapes a day.
Jesus.
For 2 months. And but that's what the editors end up dealing with. That's why like the
So
maps to that stuff are so important. The notes on what you're filming, what you're getting.
is it all kind of mapped out prior? So have they kind of got what they want to produce worked out, like a storyboard essentially worked out prior, or does it kind of organically get worked out as the show goes on?
I mean, it really all depends on the show, right? Some of this shit's completely contrived. I mean, you work on the Housewives or The Bachelor. I mean, The Bachelor was the worst. They used to get. I mean, I shouldn't say this. A lot of these people are my friends, but some of the producers, some of them, I'm not saying all of them, were really shitty, and they would just basically get them drunk and get them to work that way. And
I don't think that's going to be a surprise to anyone.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But, it depends on what the program is. Like, if it's a competition, you really can't fuck with them too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it's a real documentary, you kind of want to let them naturally, whatever story's developing, naturally develop.
Yeah.
And just kind of pivot with it, which is harder from a production standpoint, obviously. But
do you prefer being involved in more organic productions, or do you prefer being involved in more productions that are planned? Is there a preference, or does it just not matter?
I mean, they're all kind of fun, Like when I loved working on Survivor. I mean, I do a joke, I say it's a 350-person international travel and frat party in the jungle with no chicks. but that's what it was. Yeah. I mean, and it was a party, and it was, and I was in my 20s, and it was the #1 show in the country, and my best friends were on it, and to me, it was the most money it was unheard of money that I was making.
Wow.
And I was just traveling around the world. I mean, that was an awesome show, and it was huge. I liked it because there was a Marine department, so if you're hungover in the morning, you go, rip off the oxygen tank, and kills your hangover right away. And it was a big party crew. I mean, they had huge parties. Half the crew was Australian.
So all right, the Survivor. How many people are on the crew for a show like that? Because you've got 20 contestants at the start.
Yeah, there's probably about 300.
So backstage, you've got 300 people,
if not more,
living in close quarters to where these guys are. I'm assuming
close enough.
Yeah,
with maybe an hour boat ride.
God. And then you've got the people that actually live, the film people that live with these people.
Well, it shifts. So what I did when I was working on it, I can tell you how it all broke down. They had two.
Please break it down. I want to know all about it.
I don't know.
It's
super probably a direct violation of my contract.
Okay.
But whatever, I don't care. I think it's fine. It's been a long time since I worked on it, and I think people know. They had it. It was basically into two sections. Is how they had a reality section and the challenge tribal council section. Mm-hmm. And the reality section was what I did, and the tribal council guys were the ones that were just fucking off. They had it real. There was a lot of the Australians. Yeah. You'd have done good. But the reality guys, there'd be, 6 camera teams per beach. And you do it in shifts. So throughout the course of the day, the contestants are always covered, but it's boats coming in and out. No one's actually living there with them. They usually, at nighttime when they were sleeping and there wasn't going to be any sort of story, they'd have a segment producer stay there with them in case something happened to...
Just one person that just stays up.
Happened to break out, yeah. And if it was really a big thing, they'd try to call in a crew or something,
Yeah, like if someone got bitten by a snake and had to get evac'd, then you're getting a crew out there.
Usually, even during the day, if someone was getting evac'd out, they'd send people. Jeff Probst might show up on the beach, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we'd know he's coming. The contestants are all confused, Mm-hmm. It was a fun show to do, hungover.
I bet. When it's filmed, how soon after it's filmed is it actually published?
Oh, man, I think it takes a while. I mean, Survivor's good. I mean, it's been around for a long time, so they're a machine. Yeah. And it was a Mark Burnett production, which came, it was always funded well, and it was run right. And they ran it more like a movie set than a lot of reality shows,
Yeah.
So I think maybe 6 months after 6 or 8 months after they're done the first, they used to shoot the seasons back to back. So they would start cutting the first season that they were filming as the second season was and filming.
Just keep the crews rolling.
Yeah, it was almost a year. I think it's almost a year-round shoot for the people that do, the producers that are on it. They're on the editing side of it. They'll be there, I think, 3 or 4 months on location, and then editing in LA.
It makes sense to have it makes sense to run it that way, because then you're keeping your workers employed, aren't you? You're just
oh yeah.
Rather than contracting in and out and having to try and find people all the time.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started working on it, everybody wanted to work on Survivor because there wasn't as many shows, and it seemed like everybody liked it. I mean, it was a really highly rated show. It was Yeah,
The
my
tribe
parents
has
like-
spoken.
Yeah,
Everyone fucking knows that.
everybody likes Survivor.
Yeah.
So a lot of people wanted to work on it, and I think it helped my resume right away having that on there. At a pretty young age too. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, man. I was like 23 years old. I mean, I didn't know how to. I wasn't an audio engineer. Like,
But that was that your role with them?
I was doing audio. I did audio all my whole seasons, all my seasons of Survivor.
So essentially, what are you doing? You're like,
I'm the guy out there with a boom mic over my head, especially for the reality section. So we'd be on the beaches with them. We'd basically follow them while they're living, and it was 10-hour shifts. And I'd be out there holding a very heavy boom mic because that was the only audio. They didn't have lav mics on. We were getting all the mics off these big booms, and so we were chasing them around through the jungle and in the water.
Damn, man.
It's
you would have
wild.
been working hard.
You work hard on that. You sweat out those hangovers in a hurry.
I bet. And what is it like? What is it like backstage with the crew? Like, what are your quarters like? Are you guys living in accommodation, or is it sometimes tents?
I think now they're in Fiji all the time. I think now they got it good in like a hotel.
Okay. Are they just doing
it
the
got
same
better.
place?
Yeah, now they just do the same place.
Okay.
There was a time where they did one every summer and then one every around Thanksgiving, and it would be somewhere different. And it was, for me, it was awesome.
That was the best part of the show. Was them like, you're like, I remember one year they came to Australia.
Yeah. I think the second season. That was the guy who fell in the fire or something.
That's right.
Yeah. I didn't do that one.
Okay.
I started right after.
just
I
about to
didn't
ask
do
you.
that one. Yeah.
Holy shit. So now do they just have lav mics? Like, would they still have audio guys holding boom mics like that now?
No, they'll still do it. They still do it the same way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, they might have plant mics, or I don't know exactly how they have it, but by and large, the audio for reality is gotten through the boom mics.
Because they don't want to see that in the...
Yeah, and they're out in the jungle. You really don't want to interact with them too much. Then the thing is, when they go to tribal council, they'll get a boat over there or a car ride, depending on what the situation is, where tribal council is related to their tribe camp. And what the fuck was I just talking about?
Tribal council.
Yeah.
Boom, audio.
So when they're recording there, it's more like a movie set. They'll have 20 cameras out there. They'll have a whole sound team, a whole separate sound team than any of the reality guys. They'll lav everybody. They put them in they're in their buffs. That's where they'll hide the microphones and that kind of shit.
That's crazy.
But it's a whole different animal than the reality side of things. Reality, you're just out on the beach with them, filming their everyday, day to day, and then the challenges is when that all happens. They have a whole second team of people that come in. They're called the Dream Teamer. It's all these young like traveling kids.
Well, I'm just thinking to like the challenges that I used to see. That in itself, they must have like carpenters and like tradespeople to build all these sets to have different challenges every time.
And not only the sets, like we went to a place called Koh Tao, Thailand, and they essentially set up an entire like plumbing system because we were staying in tents. I mean, it was 110 degrees and with cobras. I mean, it was fucking hot and dirty. But, it was amazing what they would set up. They set up a gym. They set up, this was before everybody had internet on their phones, so they had to set up like an internet cafe for us all. I mean, it was wild what they, obviously feeding 350 people.
Yeah.
2 helicopters on set, a medical department, a marine department.
Wow. Did you have any insights as to what the budgets were for these shows? What they would...
Man, somebody told me 20 or 30 million a season.
Wow.
Which I think it isn't really that much in the grand. I mean, for a reality show, it's a lot. But I think compared to I think that's like an episode for Magnum PI or something.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot of mouths to feed.
And I don't know for sure about, that stuff.
No, I get it. Okay, so Survivor.
That was a good gig, though. I miss those days. And I met a lot of Australians, and there was always for a while, I actually really fucking hated Australians. Too.
Really?
There was so many of them, we're in America is always thought, Americans are so obnoxious worldwide, But you put a big group of Australians together, they can be equally as obnoxious, if not more.
Yeah. Yeah.
No offense to you. You seem like a cool cat.
Thank you. No. Mate, I agree. Like when I've traveled Europe, it doesn't matter where the country of people are from, but if you get a group of like 7 or 8 boys traveling together, whether they're American or Australian or British, they're cunts. they just become cunts.
The Kiwis they're kind of little bitches.
Yeah. Yes, they are.
I knew you'd be into that.
Oh man! All right, so I want to work through this timeline. So we started at Blue Juice. Did you say
Bug juice?
Bug juice,
which is like a camp. That was like what the kids drank.
We've done that. Now, then was your next sort of big thing Survivor? Was that sort of the next big ticket?
I did a season of The Real World here in New York. You know that show?
No
Are you
idea.
familiar with that? It was like one of the first reality shows.
Okay.
It was like seven strangers picked to live in a house. Stop. It was MTV's big reality show.
Gotcha.
And it was probably the first real aside from Cops.
It's
probably
kind of
the
like
first real mainstream
Jersey
one.
Shore, like the first, like Big Brother, kind of like.
But more documentary style.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they would. It was contrived in the way that, like, you'd get a racist guy from Ohio and put him in there with some black woman or something and see what happens.
Wow.
But usually, I think for the most part, it wasn't. You weren't trying to hem anybody up. Some of these shows are terrible. Mm-hmm. I think it was just trying to document people, young kids, back in the day.
Yeah, I just saw that there's a documentary on Netflix for Jerry Springer. I haven't watched it, but like,
nice.
That is I'm going to watch it, but that is like the pinnacle of like trash reality TV, like where it's deliberately putting people together that would cause friction.
To cause really serious tension.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the fun shit. I mean, that's kind of cool, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's why he got so famous, didn't he?
Yeah.
All right. So moving through, was then Survive. Where was it in your career? You said in your early 20s you were hitting Survivor.
Yeah, I did. I mean, there was so many shows back then. I'm like, yeah, a lot of Survivor back then, it looked like. And then there was... The Contender, The Apprentice, a show called The Casino, the Making the Bands with Puff Daddy. I used to do Making the Band with Puff.
Wow.
Nothing weird happened.
So you really worked with P. Diddy?
Yeah, I had to mic him. I mic'd him a few times. And,
wow.
I'm a little offended. He never hit on me.
Did you have any sense that he was into anything untoward then?
Oh, I mean, no. He was just this rich guy.
Yeah.
He was fucking stoned the whole time.
Really?
This whole studio was stoned. I don't know. Yeah.
Can you get stoned as a worker? Can you like join them, or is there that segregation?
I mean, I can.
You can.
Yeah, I mean, you really can.
Yeah, I bet you can.
Yeah, it depends on. Again, it's the job. Depending on what you're doing.
Gotcha.
Like. You could get in something. I guess it depends how risky you want to be with it and what your role is too. If you're a sound guy, they don't really want you talking to the cast like for that type of shit. And I don't really blame them. It gets to be overwhelming for a cast member, and harder for the producer to try to steer them in a direction, if everybody else is talking to them.
Did you see when you were doing Survivor? Like, did you see any? Because you said you did a season in Colombia, didn't you?
In Panama.
Did you see any of like cartel stuff going on when you were working in those jungles? Did you see like did any bricks ever wash up? Or
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't me. I do a joke where I say someone gave me the coke, but coke did wash up on shore.
Wow.
And a contestant did find it, and
wow.
I mean, it's great. And I'm pretty sure the crew did get their hands on it because.
As if you wouldn't.
As if you wouldn't.
I know. There was in Australia, end of last year, there was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bricks getting washed up onto the shore, and some people. Early. I know. Then some people were turning them in, like handing them in to the police. I was like, "You fuckers are crazy."
Yeah, it's like turning in cash.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Yeah,
someone's gonna do that.
I'll just have it forever. I'd be like, whenever I had a friend, I'd be like, "Yeah, help yourself."
I got a couple keys out back. They washed up last year. I don't buy them buy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What was the wildest shit you saw on your Survivor sets?
Oh, I mean, it was a party crew. I mean, that was as big of a party as I've ever been. So there were some crazy parties out there, which is kind of weird because there really wasn't. Think about it now. There really wasn't a lot of chicks out there ever. So
is it a very male-dominated industry?
I don't think it's as male dominated as a chick would tell you.
Yeah.
But some of those shows were definitely more so like Amazing Race, Survivor. A lot of those adventure shows, shit with Bear Grylls, they didn't have a lot of women on it, and I don't know what the reason is. I'm not going to make a comment.
Did you do a show with Bear Grylls?
I did a show that Bear Grylls did in New Zealand. It was kind of like The Apprentice, but of outdoor shit.
Yeah.
Out in New Zealand.
I fucking love Bear Grylls.
He was cool.
I used to have my friends over what was the show he did with Bear Grylls?
Running Wild.
Running Wild. Was that what it was? The
one where he would take like one person out.
No, it was just the one where when he started. He's like,
when he was just surviving, right?
Yeah, when he was just like, you got to find a river. The river takes you to a stream. Stream takes you to the ocean, and then whatever it is, the other way around.
Right.
He had to try and find civilization and get dropped in the middle of nowhere and find civilization.
Yeah, I don't remember. It was him and Les Stroud was doing one at the same time, and one of them was Survivor Man, and one of them was, I don't remember the name of it either.
Oh man,
and I think it was his one.
I loved Bear Grylls so much.
He was pretty cool. I had a good time on that show too. I had a camera guy named Ryan O'Donnell, this dude from California. He's nuts. And we were partying hard on that thing too. Have you been in New Zealand?
Yeah.
They had good weed there. We were in Wanaka. We were drinking a lot because this guy was crazy. We were doing cool stuff, getting helicoptered all around. We'd hike down big mountains, and it was pretty badass. And then on our off time, it was party time for sure. And then the last day, or right before the last episode, on my day off, me and that OD dude we went to Queenstown. I got a tattoo, and we took liquid acid and ended up too much of it, and like drove around this lake at too fast or whatever. We were still tripping our faces off the next day when we started work. And I ran through a New Zealand jungle, and it was piss pouring. All my sound gear went down. And to this day, I'm not sure what was real and like what wasn't of all that. You know what I mean? Wow. We got to the end of it, but that was a wild shoot.
Do you have to just when you're still like coming down from acid, do you have to just pretend like to everyone that you're straight? Like you've got to just.
I think I probably was.
Yeah,
I was kind of. I don't think I was hiding it really. I don't think I could. When I don't know how to turn on my sound mixer, I'm like, there's something wrong here.
Is it me?
We're not hearing anything out of this. You don't have headphones on.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, so whatever. I got lucky. I got to do a lot of this cool stuff, but a lot of this shit's drying up. It's all ending. TV in general. For the last 4 or 5 years, I worked on a TV show called Life Below Zero for National Geographic.
I fucking love that show.
I love working on that show. I love being up in minus 60 degrees. It's probably maybe my all-time favorite show that I worked on.
Are you going on all the skidoos and all the going with them when they go fishing?
And hunting and...
Oh, dude, that's
I learned
awesome.
so much shit up there, and they canceled it. They just canceled it. It was their number one highest rated show. They canceled that. They canceled
Why?
Wicked Tuna. I just think everything's changing. I think my whole business is about to die out. So I think I had a nice little 30-year run of it. Mm-hmm. And now I'm like trying to figure out what's next.
Why do you think it is dying? Because people are obviously still interested in seeing this. And where do you think it's going to rotate to? Like,
I think everything's going just to the phone, right? Shorter. I don't know if people can sit down for 20 or what is it? Be 44 minutes of television, with commercials. I don't know if people have that kind of.
Yeah. It's more just the influencer, the person now.
And I think what happened is the networks, as they usually are, a little bit behind on things, and they're noticing people are figuring out how to distribute their own stuff without them, and I think they're trying to figure out how to monetize it. So until they do that, I think they canceled anything that's going to cost them. And they have if they replay these shows, or if they they have shows that I worked on that have never seen the light of day yet. If they play those, they'll have content to put in. People are like, they're not going to just stop making content. I'm like, they kind of can until they figure out how to capitalize on everybody else's content.
Wow.
That's my thoughts on it all. But a lot of people I know, a lot of my friends, it's just been the slowest time for everybody for the last maybe year and a half, 2 years.
Wow. So what do you do then? Like, what are you planning on doing?
I'm planning to be a famous fucking comic.
No.
That was
Fuck yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was good timing, to be honest. Like, you know, because the other side of it is like with work dying out the way it has, I'm like, what am I? If I wasn't doing comedy, I'd be losing my mind. I would, you know. I mean, I work out to keep sane, and the comedy stuff it gives me a purpose every day to something to work at.
Yeah.
You know? And you know, I think the television stuff that I, you know, with my history of everything, I think I'll be able to put out a good product once I get not lazy enough to actually put something out.
Absolutely.
You know? I want to make something pretty quality, and I have good audio gear, and some of the best camera guys, you know, out there. So.
What do you want to do with that? What do you want to do? Some sort of production?
Well, I guess. I mean, ultimately, like what I really want to do is just write and tell jokes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem that's not really what comedy is. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what comedy is anymore. There was a time where you could just write and tell jokes, but it seems like you got to do a podcast or you got to put on a show so that you can get booked on a different one. Or it's so much less now, I think, than being funny than it's ever been. You know, it's like, I'm going to grind it out for the last 10 years, and then all of a sudden you just find a moderately cute chick that wants to talk into her phone about how hard dating is in New York City, and it doesn't matter if you're funny.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I believe you still have to be funny, but it's there's certainly a lot of pieces of the puzzle you have to put together now. If you want to make it in the industry and monetize what you're doing, you have to do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And you have to get a social media presence. That's probably the biggest thing. However you get that, that's up to you. You can do it on TikTok, you can do it from posting your stand-up clips, but certainly the guys that have made it have got a presence, a big presence. I mean, sure. And also that's how you kind of get booked as well now. Like that seems to be, it's almost like that is essentially like, if you have a big following, you're going to get booked in clubs. You can call up any club and be like, I'm coming here, and you're going to get booked. Sure.
That's what guys like Julian Edelman and Rob Gronkowski are doing. And I love those guys. I'm a Patriots fan, but you know, it's just, it didn't matter that they didn't do comedy. Like, of course it was
I
roast.
think Gronk is in the football player.
Yeah, well, you know, he did the roast. He did the roast.
Yeah,
and they were funny, you know, but they had a lot of help from, like, you know, some of the best comedy writers in the world. But
is he now doing comedy?
I don't know. I'm wondering if they're doing. He was talking about it on his podcast, and I think maybe.
I think guys like that are like, the problem is, do you not think that they would crash and burn pretty quickly? Like, I feel like comedy just is one of those things you can't really cheat. As in, just being a stand-up comic, like in a club, you can't cheat that journey. Like, you have to learn it.
You got to learn it.
You can't. You can have someone write for you and you know, do all your jokes for you, but you still have to get up there and say it. You still have to
deliver it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. You know,
I mean, what do I know? I know fucking nothing. I don't know. Who knows? But.
Well, yeah, but you can have one good set, and you know, if you're preparing for it, like with the whole roast thing, like, I mean, they were funny. Those guys. Did you watch the roast?
Yeah, the Tom Brady one.
Yeah,
it was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, they were funny.
I think that was the most watched comedy program on Netflix, I believe.
I wouldn't
the
be
first
surprised.
or second.
I know everybody was talking about it.
Yeah, it was.
And it
great.
was funny.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the other thing.
Tony Hinchcliffe murdered as well. That was.
He's real funny.
Yeah.
That's my style of humor right there. I like that kind of dirty stuff. I'm trying to talk more about the TV shit these days, but.
Well, I think it's a very unique perspective what you have. You're very lucky. You've got 30 years of television experience where you've interacted with people like Diddy, like Trump, people on Survivor, people on The Amazing Race. Like, you have a perspective that no one else has.
Yeah, I mean, I know. It's pretty cool.
It's wild, and people are interested in that. So
I'm trying to lean into it a little bit more. Or jails. I worked in jails for a long time. I worked on a show called Lockup for years. So I have so many jail jokes.
Wow.
And it's always a good lead in too, because you're like, I spent a lot of time in jail, right? And the audience immediately is fascinated. They're like, what's this guy's story? And then you find out, you know, I'm just working.
I mean, you would have enough material to just be one of the greatest storytellers in the world. I mean,
if I could only tell a story.
Of course you can. I've seen you on stage. You're funny, man. You're great.
I just got to start working it out a little bit more and trying to get more organized in my head, which is a big goal of mine for real this year. You know, I want to really try to get it together, You know Chris Ferretti, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to him earlier today, and he's like, man, you should try to get a full special out by the end of the year.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty good goal. I mean, he's kind of got that, put that in the back of my mind. I'm like, I could do that. I could sell out a place here. Get it.
Of course you could. You have a big community, and you're really funny. Your stuff is really good. So
thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I wouldn't have you here if you weren't funny. Fuck's sake. It's a comedy podcast. You're great.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Sometimes you forget about it. Comedy, I don't know if it was this way for you. When I got into comedy, it kind of, I never had a problem being funny. Funny was always pretty easy for me, especially on sets.
Yeah, you're a larrikin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
But then when I got into comedy, it changed everything. I got into my head about it. For a while, you couldn't differentiate what was funny and what wasn't. I'm like, am I just crass? Like, comedy's a head game, which I like. I like trying to put the puzzle together. I'm trying to figure this thing out. But
it's definitely a head game. It 1 minute you're riding high, the next minute you're low, and there's no way around it. That's it sucks. That's the part of it that really sucks. It's so hard, but it's so rewarding.
Yeah.
But the hard parts, especially if you're already a bit of a self-deprecating person and you're already pretty hard on yourself at times, then the hard parts can be really hard.
Yeah. Especially, it's setting up expectations, I think, for things too. Like I've tried to eliminate those. I've tried not to have any expectations when I go into something, even if it's like a competition because if I'm expecting to win and then I don't, then it really hurts. Then it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
What am I doing? I'm like, let me go back to TV.
Yeah. I never expect to win. Like if I'm to do something like that, I'm never that person. I'm always like expecting to do shit, and then I usually do better than what I think I'm going to do.
It's probably a better approach to it. Like I'm going to win this shit.
Yeah.
It's a competition with a bunch of really funny comics. Yeah, I'm gonna win.
So when did you get into comedy?
I got into it in 2014.
Nice.
It was pretty off and on. A lot of time I'd be traveling, so there was benefits to it because I got to do comedy all over the whole world already, and I wasn't that good at it.
Were you tying it into work? So if you were in a location, you'd be like, oh, I'm going to go hit some open mics here or some shows here while I'm working there?
Sure. Or I do the rap party, like we did a show in Fiji where...
I don't know what the rap party is.
The rap party is like at the end of a show, they throw a big party.
Ah.
And
you would do a set?
They would let me, depending on, I've done a few of them.
Yeah.
I did one in Fiji for probably like 350 people. And it was all inside jokes. So you're just ripping on everybody on the crew, ripping on all the shit on the production that went wrong. I remember my boss, he was the one that basically put it on, the sound supervisor. And I did the show, and it was funny. People were dying laughing.
I bet they were.
It was great.
And it brings, because everyone would have been so happy. Like there would have been so much happiness and joy knowing that the set's over, but also sadness. It just would have brought everyone together so well.
That's just, that's what the party is anyway.
Yeah.
Everyone's half in the bag and crying, and I'll see you again sometime, and maybe you will. But I remember the sound supervisor, because I was ripping on the production. He was just like, well, it was a really funny set. He's like, but I wouldn't expect them to call you for another season. I was like, yeah.
Really?
I wasn't. Yeah.
Right.
It was fun, It was fun. And then the guy that was directed Last Comic Standing. So, they shot it with these high quality cameras, and I lost the footage. I don't know what I did with any of that shit, but oh well.
Next time.
Yeah, next time.
And then, so with the comedy, so you started in 2014, and then were you like, what's been like some of your highs and lows of that journey, like going through?
I mean, like I said, I've been lucky as far as like getting to travel and do it. I mean, I've done comedy in I've done a whole tour around Eastern Europe. I go to Paris regularly to do comedy, which I love that little scene there.
Mm-hmm. Is there a good comedy scene for English speaking, like expats there?
In Europe in general, I think Berlin, Paris, and Barcelona are probably three of your biggest cities. But the Paris scene I like because I'm trying to learn French fluently.
Mm-hmm.
And
wow.
And I just like going over to Paris. I don't know. I'm French. I'm a Francophile. It's embarrassing to even say.
Are you actually French?
Well, I'm by American.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm French heritage.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Saint Hilaire is about as French as,
okay.
as you're gonna get for a name. But yeah. But they got a good little scene. They're pretty fun over there. couple really funny comics, and it's easy to travel around to like Berlin or Barcelona as well while you're over there. So, and it's a lot cheaper than America, just in general.
Yeah, I bet. Are you living in New York now?
I'm here until I don't really live anywhere. I'm here until the middle of March, and then I'm gonna try to figure out. I don't really like being back in New York. I mean, New York's great for a lot of reasons, but I like being in the woods. There's just no comedy. You're not gonna do any comedy when you're up in the middle of the woods in fucking Alaska. There's just, and I really want to do comedy. So, with any luck, I can get established enough with this where I can spend a lot of time still not in the city.
Yeah, that would be the dream, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
I think eventually I wouldn't live in a big city either. I'd probably live out. Have a bit of a quieter life somewhere, and then
come into it a little bit.
Yeah, come into it when I want to, and then have a little place out, or even like an hour out of the city, somewhere that you just have a little sanctuary,
something upstate. Yeah. Or, it's crazy because when I was in my 20s, I mean, this place was fun. I mean, I had a blast. 20s, 30s. Like I look at like you and Harrison and Joe, and like in a lot of ways, it reminds me of like the way television kind of works. You get to know people, right? And then they like what you're doing. They like your jokes. They put you up. It's the same thing with television. You show up, you work hard, you have some beers after. They liked what you were doing.
You're on the
they
next
throw
one.
you on the next one, So it was a real word of mouth sort of thing. But a lot of ways, like just from following you guys on social media, kind of reminds me of that. It's like, damn, I was like, if I was younger, I was like, I better bro around with these cats and like,
Well, mate, we're always here.
Well, I wouldn't hang out with Harrison. He doesn't drink anymore, right?
No, he doesn't drink. He will soon.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's on day 90 now. I think he's only got 10.
What's he doing, 100 days?
Yeah, 100 days.
That's what I thought. That's crazy. He's a pretty funny cat, too.
Yeah, he's funny as fuck. Yeah.
All you guys that I met, I don't know, I just feel like you, Harrison, and Joe, but then all the other guys that come with it to those mics and stuff.
They're great.
It's been fun. Yeah.
It's a good little community that's growing.
Yeah,
and
I think it's growing kind of fast, man.
Yeah.
I think you guys are making a pretty good little name, and
yeah,
it's good to see. I like that.
Yeah. Well, Joe and Harrison are doing their own shows now. They're doing 2 shows a month, so they're sort of growing their brand pretty quickly, and they're both getting booked pretty regularly. So they're doing great. They're doing the mic every fortnight, and now I think they're doing a show every fortnight. So. They're killing
pretty good.
I don't really have any ambition to do my own shows.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Do you think a lot of people in America use the word fortnight?
Fortnight?
Yeah.
I know
what that means. It means like 11 days, right? Basically.
It's 2 weeks, a fortnight.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess we used to have our days off. It was a fortnight. It'd be what do you call an 11-day fortnight? That's what they used to work. And we had an AD in Australia. I had never heard it at the time, so I was just wondering if
so you guys don't use that?
I don't use it regularly. No. I mean, I use it because I make fun of Australians.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody does. Maybe people use it regularly. Maybe I'm the only idiot that doesn't use the word fortnight. Man. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, don't. It's just a dumb podcast. You can say whatever you want. If you got any questions, shoot them. What is it like for these people that are living in those tribes, like the people that for Below Zero? So people that don't know, the Below Zero is this show filmed in Alaska.
Yeah, Alaska.
And they're native tribes. A lot of them are natives to
that area.
Yeah. Oh, there's some like intermarriage stuff with white people, like Westerners and stuff.
And then just some white people that live up there too.
Gotcha.
But it's all like subsistence living, all living off the grid.
So they all genuinely live like that. That's they a lot of their food and resources is from what they catch, or is it made to seem more like that from
when we're filming, we're out there doing it. And then some of those people are out there all the time. Yeah. But not all of them are out there all the time. But it doesn't mean that they weren't.
Can they sell within their community? Like if they get a big catch of tuna, for example, and they've got hundreds and hundreds of them, they're not going to need them. Do they sell them?
I don't know if they sell them or more just like proxy them to other villagers. You know what I mean? I don't think they're trying to. When it comes to that sort of thing, like I know this guy Rico. He's the apex predator up there. There's polar bears and grizzly bears and wolves, and Rico is on top of all those.
Really?
And he's a friend of mine. He's an awesome dude.
Okay. Is he a native?
He's he's native dude, Athabascan Indian guy.
Okay.
And he grew up in the most wild way. He grew up 35 miles from a town of 300 people that you can only get to by boat or plane, a village of Athabascan Indians.
And how many people were in his village growing up? Like what?
He wasn't in a village. There was 14 brothers and sisters, or 12 or 13, and his mom and dad, and that was it. And if they didn't get their food, if they didn't hunt their food, you didn't eat. Like it wasn't like it's I've been out to that cabin. I filmed out there, and it just blows me away every time when I'm out there. I'm like,
are they still living out there? The family?
He still has the cabin.
Okay.
And some of the family goes out there, but and they show it on the show. They show him when he's out there, but no one's really living out there. I spent a summer out there. My introduction to that show was during COVID, and I spent 7 weeks in the middle of nowhere out there. And there was a bear stalking us. It snuck into our camp and tripped on an internet cable, oddly enough, that woke us up, probably 3, 4 in the morning.
Wow.
That guy Rico was like, yo, this isn't like Kodiak bears. This thing doesn't have a regular diet. That thing was hunting you guys. I was like, all right, vote me off the island. I want to get out of here,
Okay.
I think Rico ended up killing that thing later, but
wow.
Yeah, kind of wild.
What are these like? Do these people like Rico? Is that the life he wants to live? Like, does he ever want to go to New York City? Does he ever want to see the world, or is he just like, this is my life and this is what I want to do? Like, what is their mindset?
This guy's whole story is great because he kind of did all that. He lived up in the woods, got out of the woods, probably 16, went to the village. I think when he was 18 or 19, he had finished school and he was in Fairbanks, and he started dealing dope. He started slinging a lot of dope, and he did time for it. Serious time for it,
So you can still get everything up there.
Well, yeah, once he got into the cities, Fairbanks and Anchorage, when he was in the woods, I don't think it was quite like that. But, there's
just grow
drug problems in the cities.
Oh, yeah.
Or in the villages. So
Yeah.
it was easy to, there's always going to be a market for it no matter where you're at, right? And so I think Rico has a good sense of both, right? He has a sense of the city and he has a sense of the woods. He lives in Fairbanks most of the time now, but he loves being out there. This guy kills more wolves. Well, I was going to say than anybody but you probably don't know a lot of guys killing wolves. Yeah.
He's allowed. You're allowed to shoot. Are they?
He traps them.
Okay.
He might shoot some too, but he traps them.
What's the go with that? Is there a limit to how many they can kill, or if you're native, do you have right to anything?
I think you have much bigger rights. You can you can't fuck around with the hunting laws at all up in Alaska. It's more serious than their regular laws. If you get caught doing some dumb shit, you get in some pretty big trouble for it.
Right.
But yeah, it's a lot more lax for natives and Eskimos and.
What do they do with the wolves? They don't eat them, do they?
No, you can't. You can't really eat that. The meat's kind of polluted, but you can make furs out of them, and then. Beyond that, the Athabascan people that live around there, their diet is primarily moose, and the wolves will eat a lot of the moose. So he kills the wolves to help keep the population of the moose up, so that everybody can eat. So it's sort of like what you're saying with the fish thing earlier. He'll even proxy hunt for some of the people in the village, and bring them moose meat, during moose hunting season. But then he kills the wolves in the winter to keep the populations up.
It's wild to me how these guys are, the way they mobilize is completely different. Winter, it's all on sleds, sometimes dogs. Do they still use dogs and stuff up there?
Yeah, one of the guys I used to film, this guy Jesse. He runs the Iditarod. He came in third the last 2 years, or second maybe last year. I think I hope he wins it. This guy's cool too.
What is that?
It's the biggest dog race on the planet. It's a 1,000-mile race from Anchorage to, might even be longer, to Nome.
Goes for days.
Yeah, 7, 8, 9 days maybe.
And they're camping. They're packing everything.
Middle of the winter, and
wow.
You got your dogs and the whole thing. Wow. It's a crazy race. But Jesse, one of the former cast members for Life Below Zero, he runs it. He's been a dog musher for years. We used to go film at his place. He'd have 80 dogs out there. Go for a run out in the woods, and they'd be following you. It was great.
How do you feed 80 dogs? That must just be.
It's his livelihood. It's his business. He loves his dogs. He treats them good too.
Yeah, I bet.
but they're like athletes too. Like he feeds them good, really good. But what's kind of crazy is there's a guy that lives out on the Yukon River. This guy Andy, and he has like 16 dogs, big ones that he bred himself. He kind of made the whole breed of them, probably like 90-pound like sled dog huskies, big. They look like wolves, and the fish basically they're running out of fish in the Yukon. King salmon. He used to catch all these fish up there, and he would use the shitty parts to feed the dog. And now he's having to buy dog food.
Why are they running out of fish? Do you think? Is it just
it's I think overfished, and everything. The world's falling apart. I think it's pretty real. I think climate change is real,
and just humans in general raping resources.
It's too many of us.
Yeah,
I don't even know. Yeah, I mean it's that, but I mean I think I read a book like 15 years ago called 10 Billion about the insustainability of having that many people on Earth, and we're coming up on that number fast. And it was by this Oxford professor. It's pretty. Yeah, he was like, "We're fucked." He's like, "This is it." He's like,
I mean, there's gonna be certainly fresh resources or natural resources that are gonna become limited. Obviously, we've still got farming stuff like wheat and cattle and beef, which is that's the same thing. But yeah, it's a shame. Do the government in Alaska try and limit fishing in that sense? But also, how would they even track what someone like Andy is even catching?
I think Andy probably has to do a lot of that kind of research on his own, right? Mm-hmm. They track it. They started putting dummy fish for the ones that were fished out. That they kind of act like zombies, though. They don't act like regular fish. The way I don't know exactly what to think because I'm not a fisherman. But people were saying that the salmon aren't growing to the same size, and they got these kind of zombie fish that they push in the fisheries that will breed with the regular fish, but they act.
What is it? Just to try and bring numbers up?
Yeah, just to try to have it. But it's been overfished. I mean, it's overfished.
Wow, that's such a shame.
I mean, it's crazy. Like, you go to a place like Cambodia or Philippines too. It's even worse, where they'll dynamite the reef, kill every fish for one season, and then there's nothing left and they don't know. They don't know better. They're like, oh, it's going to be a big haul. When I was in Cambodia, all they were catching was squid and jellyfish. I mean, there's this huge sea, and everything was dead in it.
Yeah, I follow a lot of people on YouTube. It's pretty well known that a lot of these places are just done. Like the reefs are bleached.
Yeah,
they're dead. You've got to go further and further out to get food. It's tough.
Yeah,
and then you see these mega trawlers that go through the ocean, and they have one boat which drags a net between another boat, and they just scraping the sea floor from top to bottom for miles and miles and miles and miles. I mean, everything's just getting.
Whatever they can get.
Whatever.
And who cares about the future?
And nets don't discriminate.
No.
Everything gets caught in that net and everything dies.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, this isn't that funny, all that shit.
But it's
it's true
fine.
though. It just seems pretty real, And
what I also never got, did you ever do any seasons with fishing boats?
Not any, I never did any, I don't think so.
I never understand with fishing boats how, there's rules of stuff that they can and can't catch. And what they can't catch, but it still ends up in the net, it's called a byproduct, and they end up just throwing it overboard. That to me just seems really dumb. Why don't they just keep it because it's already in the net, it's already dead?
It's already dead.
I never understand. There's a lot of things that just are not logical.
Yeah, huh? That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If you already scooped it up, just keep it.
Yeah, you may as well.
I guess you feed fish with it, other fish. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, let's hope that it all gets sorted out. Do you think these guys that are living out in these rural places in Alaska, do you think they're gonna eventually have to move into town if resources? I
don't know if things are that bad. If it gets that bad, I mean, I think things are already too bad. I don't know. I'm sure they wouldn't want to end up having to do that. That's not. I mean, there's a reason why they like to be away from society and all that. Not Alaska's a great place for it. Where you don't have to be as integrated with it all. And I'm sure if you got forced into having to do it, Probably just wouldn't do it.
I saw on one of those Life Below Zeros, there was this meat. I can't remember if it was like a red meat or if it was a fish. And they put it underneath their cabin and it just stays there and just rots all year round. And then about a year later, they get to it. It sort of cures from being frozen. I think it might be a type of fish. I
wonder if that's the hailstones. Was it the hailstones up in Norvik?
I think so.
Kewalik?
Yeah. I really like the hailstones, by the way.
They're great. They're fantastic
They're
people.
so good to watch. His wife, she is insane.
She hated me right away.
Really?
Hated my guts. They smoke so much fucking weed. I mean, they are so high. We used to say you're gonna get as high as a hailstone. But I liked Agnes. But like the very first time I interacted with them, BBC or the company I was working for, they mistakenly gave them a brand new snow machine, probably $20,000 snowmobile.
Why was it a mistake?
Well, because they were giving them a $1 cheap one that they were just going to end up like giving away or selling it with like a bad ski and all this. And they had sent 2 up there just because they were preparing for the leg for us to come up, and we needed machines too to follow them around and whatnot. And so they thought they got this brand new one for free. And I'm the face of the company because I was producing, right? And I'm meeting Agnes, and I had to tell her, like, they told me, get the thing back. So I was like, hey, we got to take that machine back. And she was just like, you know what happens when a white man, Indian gives an Eskimo woman? I was like, you get canceled? Yeah, it was brutal. She was pissed right away, but whatever.
How did they get paid for these shows?
Yeah, I mean they get a contract, and and the ones that were on there for a while, I think they did pretty good.
Yeah. And do a lot of them then do their own social media and stuff?
Probably not as much as they should.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Rico, now that the whole thing's ended, he's trying to do more stuff because he is a master hunter too. I mean, this guy's he's a woodsman. You know what I mean? Like I learned so much from all of them just being out there. So it was fun. I mean, I'd never skinned a moose. One day Rico shot one. Just left it out there for us to skin up.
Wow. And then
he was coming back for us. His son was sick, but he was just like, hey, can you guys take care of this?
And you just figured it out?
Yeah, okay, yeah. I'm like, well, what do we do? And he's like, well, you saw me skin the other ones. Just do that. So.
Wow. And are you living off that meat while you're there?
No, we got it good. I mean, when we were out there, we were BBC and Nat Geo money. We'd have a plane full of food sent in, and if it's cold, it could stay outside. And we had, Yeti huge Yeti coolers, and I mean, that setup was great. We're going into minus 65 degrees sometimes, which I don't know what that is. At like minus 40, I think it gets colder than centigrade, right? So
Yeah.
but it's friggin' freezing, obviously.
Yeah.
And they had everything. It was like you go into the place and it was an REI warehouse. Bunny boots and Carhartt bibs and Klein bibs and these Kavik jackets, and like it was awesome. Like it was kind of like a playground of like all this winter stuff that you could have, and then the food too is pretty. It's like, okay, what do you guys want? We'll have somebody go out, buy it, and they fly it up to wherever we were at. So it was for being out in those conditions. It's like a fairly kind of, I don't want to say cush, because you're in rough conditions. You're camping in a tent at minus 60 degrees. It's that's cold. So.
Shit, man. So when did you start getting into producing shows?
I started working on a cop show called Live PD. It was like the Cops, you ever see Cops?
Mm-hmm.
It was like Cops, but it was like Red Zone. You know what that is?
Mm-mm.
They would cut to 8 different live cities. So let's say I'm in the back of a cop car. I'd have a radio that'd go up to a satellite. I'd be like, okay, New York, we're in a this is whatever town I'm in, Springfield, Missouri, Greene County or whatever county we were in. Be like, we're in a high-speed chase. I try to give all the information to whoever was back in the studio in New York, and then they would cut live to our car of the cop chasing whoever, you know what I mean? Or whatever the crime may be, be like, all right, we got some guy chasing this guy in a different city, and then they'd cut over to that. It was a super fun job to work on.
I bet.
It kind of felt like a cop, you got a bulletproof vest and you're riding around with them. And
really?
Yeah.
And then what's involved with producing a show? Like what is your role?
Still trying to figure that out.
Is it just everything? Like you just really just a jack of all trades?
Kinda. I think a lot of like depending. Again, like every show is a little bit different, so the roles always get
Muddled.
changed up. Yeah, a little bit. But for something like live PD, you're not really doing anything. You're not really interacting with the cops. You're kind of just following them. You're letting New York know what's going on. There's paperwork, that kind of thing that you got to deal with on a regular basis too, because there's a paper trail of everything. And then you're kind of there for a liability. I think. Let's say somebody gets shot, which is a really very real possibility with a show like that, or a cop shoots somebody. You got to make sure you're liaisoning with the cops and the studio back in New York, and just doing everything legally. I think that's for that type of job, that's kind of what your role is, right? For shows like Life Below Zero, they'd give us an idea, kind of you're talking about earlier, of what the story is. You go and talk to the cast member about it, and you kind of just help try to steer that. If something changes, you try to figure out how to branch off that story and still keep it interesting and keep the theme of the story going throughout the whole episode. You know what I mean? Or any sort of hiccup that might come up, like when that bear came in, it was, terrorizing our camp. We had to get a hold of LA and try to figure out, what do we do? Do we stay here? Do we go? But a lot of it's just that kind of thing, just problem solving.
Yeah,
managing, I guess, a little bit.
It would be endless problem solving on something like that, I would imagine, on all these shows, because you can't really, there's so many real life situations you can't plan. You can have predicted what may happen, but at the end of the day, you don't really know.
You don't
know how a hunt's going to go. You don't know how a cop chase is going to go. You don't know.
And there's guns and there's wild animals, and you're a lot of time in the middle of nowhere. I mean, so yeah, those are sort of the scary. I mean, I did a trip. It was an awesome trip. It was probably like a 300-mile. I think it was a 300-mile snow machine ride from like.
Oh, that would have been sick.
Over this glacier, we stopped in between because Native Americans and Eskimos would always war with each other.
So they're not. The Native American Eskimos not considered Native Americans?
I think they all are. I don't know. The Eskimos that I hung out with told me to call them Eskimos, and they're coastal.
Right. Are they naturally a smaller people? I always envisioned an Eskimo as a smaller. They're like because they kind of look Asian, don't they? Like they've got a bit of.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean yeah, I guess, huh? I mean, I don't know if they're smaller.
I probably need to look up my history of Eskimo.
No, not a lot of people know about Eskimos. Yeah. They're kind of dying out, I guess, probably, right? Like that chick Agnes. As much as she hated me, she said she wanted my genetics. So
really?
Like, yeah. Well, it's something different.
Yeah, yeah.
That Eskimo brother thing's pretty real in the villages.
Anyway, you did a 300-mile.
Oh yeah, that's a snow machine thing, and we stopped at this.
God, you must have had so much fucking fun. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Dude, it was fucking crazy.
Fuck you.
Yeah, I mean,
I love all that shit. I love adventure stuff.
Well, the wild thing was I broke my wrist on the thing, and I didn't know it. I thought it was just tendonitis, but I broke my wrist somewhere on the ride. I fell off the machine a couple of times trying to keep up with them. I mean, these guys they're so good on them, and if you haven't grown up on those things, there's a learning curve when you're going that far. And anyway, we stayed at this hot springs where I don't know. It was just the whole thing was fucking awesome. It was awesome. I don't know what the point of that story was, but yeah, I got super lucky with that kind of thing. I remember being on the bike on the snow machine cruising through and just being like, I mean, I could die out here, but I was like, who does this? I was like, who does this?
No one.
Nobody. So yeah, I mean, I know as far as that goes, I got a lot of experiences that I don't think really a lot of people will ever have. I mean, I think the most interesting man in the world commercials. Those sometimes you watch those commercials and I'm like, it's boring. This guy's boring.
Mate, you've lived a blessed life. Like when it comes to hunting, when you're joining in on a hunt, how do you find the balance between getting the thing on camera, getting the audio, but also staying back so that this person can do what they're doing and being very quiet? And are they telling you shh, be quiet, there's something coming.
Yeah, I mean, depending. Yeah, they'll get. I mean, they're trying to hunt. And this is for them. Like, we're filming it, and they know it's for the show, but it's also food. You know, like a guy like Rico, if he sees an animal that he can harvest, he's gonna want to do that. So he gets pissed if like you're making too much noise, and he's so good in the woods, he knows better. So you really got to come up with a good plan in advance. How you gonna set your shots, what you want to have set for when he fires the trigger. And then once you do it, you go back and back produce everything. You go back and, you know, that's where you get the slow-mo of the bullets coming out of the guns or the figure pulling on the trigger. Or,
you get deliberate shots for that.
You'll go back and get all that stuff, you know, that you recreate all of it. But you got to get the kill shot, the real one first, and then you can go back and back produce everything else.
And so when you mean back produce, you'll be like, all right, Rico, I've got to get you to stand here, hold the rifle, take a shot. We're going to film you doing this.
Right.
Okay.
There was like special. So there was like a couple elements. Like they had used a few different cameras. So if they did a lot of cool slow motion stuff, a lot of stuff with GoPros. So he'd fire a shot, get his kill. He'd get that on their real-time cameras, and then you'd have like a GoPro underneath, like just like right on his trigger finger as a cutaway, you know, or like slow-mo of the bullets, you know, of the rounds getting spent out of the gun, you know, just to make it look better, more cinematic, you know, obviously for television. So, and then if there was any story. You know, let's say the story was he was going to drive out this whole long way and he just wanted to go out and kill these animals right away. Then you go back and back produce the story where he'll be like, all right, I think I'm going to go out and do some hunting and see what I can find, even though, you know, there's already a dead reindeer in the back of his sled or something.
I see.
That's what I mean by back produce.
Yeah, okay. Now, did you ever work on shows like Big Brother? Or any of those really trashy reality TV shows?
I mean, I did a lot of trashy shows. I didn't do Big Brother. I worked on, I guess at The Bachelor. They played here. Yeah.
God, that must be complete. I mean, that really is the polar opposite of like Below Zero and then going to shows like The Bachelor. You must have been bored out of your fucking brain sometimes with that sort of thing compared to like riding ski-doos 300 miles through the snow.
Well, it's just different, right? Because the Bachelor crew is just fun. It's another fun crew. It's big. It's probably 200 people. Everyone's super cool. Like some of my best friends are on that. Wow. It was a union gig, so that was a nice gig. Actually, just put in a resume to see if I could produce on that. But you know, I'm not doing this next season. But I don't know, I think it'd be kind of fun actually to get back on it in that capacity because I always did sound on it in the past. So.
Okay. I would imagine it'd be great. Yeah.
But that's fun. I mean, it's boring in that like you're not even when you're doing sound, you're not listening to anything these people are saying. You know, you're having a good time. You know, making dirty jokes with the sound guy next to you, and you know,
it's like work. Like I'm an electrician by trade, and I've worked with big crews of dudes, like hundreds of dudes sometimes on these jobs, and hundreds of electricians, and. It's not the job that you remember, it's the boys that you worked with and like the camaraderie and like going to the pub in the afternoons and then, you know, 2 beers turns to 10 and then you're all fucking hungover the next day. It's all those moments. They're the moments that you take from any job, isn't it?
For sure. I mean, you get it. You used to do mining too, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it must have been, I don't know if you guys were drinking when you were doing you were, okay. Yeah.
Not on the mines, but in the evenings for sure.
I imagine people would get pretty loose. Like, that type of work breeds that kind of...
100%. You work hard, play hard. And then when we had a night off, if we had a night off or two in a swing, we would do like 4-week swings where we'd be away for a month. And so in that swing, you would get a couple of nights where you could go into town sometimes, depending where you were. We got loose. Like drugs... alcohol, women, just
everything,
cashed up, idiots. You just go crazy and it's fun. And then you talk about it for the next week until you do it again.
You know, it's so crazy because that's what it feels. I mean, to me, that's what. Anytime I've ever heard of like, you know, that like working up on the slope or like, you know, going out and do like commercial fishing or, you know, go out mining like that. It always reminds me of reality TV. It's like a blue collar sort of business where a bunch of people are just trying to get through this bullshit. Yeah. And then they go make a bunch of money and just kind of blow it out for a while, you know?
Yeah. It's like you you just make the best of a bad situation, because it is as much as it's fun, it's still work at the end of the day. You're still away from home. You're still uncomfortable. There's still a lot of things that are just not the way that you're used to. Like there's a discomfort and a unfamiliarity with all these things where, although it's great when you're there, you still at the end of the day look forward to going back. So you make the best of a bad situation. You get this camaraderie with these guys or these men and women, and you end up like, I don't know, you bond really quickly in those sorts of situations, don't you?
Well, it's a lot of times, like you said, like if it's an adverse condition, you already are going to bond over how shitty it is. Yeah. That, you know what I mean?
I mean, I can't even imagine working in something like below zero where you're just freezing your fucking dick off.
Cold, man. I mean,
that must have been so miserable sometimes.
I remember the first time I had a set of these headphones out there, and I grabbed them like this. I picked them up, and it just snapped in half. And I was like, I forgot where I was. It was minus 30. I was like, you can't do that here. Or you take a full camera, and like you just throw it in the snow. Like it won't even pick up the snow. Like it won't melt onto the camera because it's too cold. Like, you know, you'd never throw a camera. It's like throwing a camera in the water, you know?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad went out. He was working in Canada, like out in the middle of fucking nowhere. Freezing cold. He said he would throw a glass of boiling water in the air, and then it would just be frozen by the time it comes down.
It turns into like a big puff of...
Yeah.
I never ended up doing it. I've seen it done a million times.
It's fucking crazy, yeah.
It's a fun gig, though. It's a bummer it's done. I wish that thing was...
Well, mate, you never know. You never know what the future holds. These things can come back, and there's cycles. It's like anything. Like, I think the whole Instagram influencer life, the way that you sort of feel the way the industry could be going, it's gonna have its run, and then it's gonna run its course, and then people are gonna be sick of this shit. Nothing ever lasts forever.
Yeah,
I don't know how
right.
long it's gonna last for, but there's still always gonna be a need for skilled people, and you know, I think another big industry is like documentaries and stuff, because people love documentaries. I personally love documentaries. Have you thought about getting into that sort of production style?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a bunch too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing one. I started an affordable housing documentary.
Oh, that's awesome.
On the 21st for like 5 days, and I don't know if we're going to Memphis or West Virginia, but there'll be a few of those over the next couple of months that we'll go do that. I'm doing sound on it.
Cool.
So yeah, I mean, there's you're right. I think there's stuff. There's always going to be some stuff, and then for me, the fact that things have slowed down, I guess I got complacent. I guess I used to sort of expect to get 6 times a year, some life-changing job where I got paid a bunch of money and I didn't have to worry about it and think about it. And this was and things have changed. But in a lot of ways, I look at that as a good thing, because it's forcing me. Like I said, it's forcing me to do more comedy. It's forcing me to start trying to figure out how to get my own shit done.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do anyway. It's easy to fall back into that routine where I'm like, I just wait for that job to come. But
yeah, totally. I get it, man. I really do. And I hope for our sake, those sorts of programs don't stop.
Don't go away entirely, right?
No way.
Because they're good. I mean, I was even emailed one of the EPs on National Geographic Explorer just trying to get my resume out. And he's like, dude, I wish I could help you out. There's nothing going on. And I'm like, does that mean they're not shooting anything? Like, there's got to be.
That's crazy.
Especially for something like that, like Nat Geo. I mean, they put out great, I don't know. I like animals. Who doesn't like animals? I don't know.
I wonder if there's going to be more people that end up like self-funding projects. Like, for example, you go into Alaska with 2 other people, 3 other people, and you follow these guys on your own and just produce your own show, and then.
Yeah, I think that's where, ultimately, I think that is what is happening, And I think, I could probably pivot some of this stuff into the comedy thing, record people's sets. I don't know.
Yeah.
But until I figure out how to integrate it.
You will. We're all on this journey together. I mean, that's what I'm doing with this. Like, I don't know what I'm fucking doing. I'm just trying.
I know, but I love that you're doing it.
Thanks,
It's
man.
fucking awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that's all we all got to do in life. We're all just trying to figure it out. No one knows. I mean, you got to grab the baton when you've got it, and then when you don't have it, you've got to figure out where it is and try and grab another one. It's just It's like a monkey swinging in a tree, isn't it? That's what we're all doing. But I think this is going to be a good year for everyone. I got a good feeling.
Yeah, except everybody in LA, maybe.
Yeah.
It's fucking bad news, huh?
Yeah, I'm trying not to look too much into that because it's fucking depressing.
I just got a lot of friends out there, and I've been getting a lot of GoFundMe. You know, like, Jesus, how many people lost their houses?
The sad thing is, like, people don't feel sorry for the rich people that lost their homes. No offense. If you're a rich person that had a home and you can afford it, like, I'm sorry. It sucks, but it's just the people that don't have a lot of money and they don't have insurance to fix these things. They're the people that I feel really bad for because you're fucked. What do you do?
Yeah, it's just it seems realer when you get to like when you know some people. And then, you know, I was hitting up my one buddy. I'm like, dude, how you doing? He's like, well, it's just trying to get my head wrapped around that my whole existence is gone. I'm like,
it's really sad.
Yeah,
and also it's not like a freak fire where like maybe they've lost like 100 homes, but when you've lost that many homes, it takes years to rebuild that sort of stuff. It's no joke. The amount of resources you need to rebuild and skilled people. I don't know what they're going to do. How many people have been displaced now?
A couple 100,000, isn't it? Isn't it something like that? It's something crazy like that. I mean, that the Palisades fire looked like it was the size. What they said it was the size of Manhattan, right? Or maybe bigger. I mean, can you imagine? Fuck, man, bad news. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2025 will be pretty good for most people.
We got a bit bleak there.
Not everyone, maybe.
I don't mean to say as well the rich people. I don't not feel sorry for rich. If you've lost a home, it is really awful. But I think it's just people. It's just that like there's this obvious like middle. There's obviously like people who don't have money are really fucking struggling now, and life is just getting harder and harder.
Right.
It sucks, man.
Yeah. No, the poor are getting poorer and
so much poorer.
Yeah. It's crazy. Things are so outrageous. Did you think it was like this here when you came over? Had you been to America before?
I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Australia is a pretty hard place to live too.
Yeah.
Man. It's expensive there.
It is expensive.
It's really, really expensive.
Where did you live there?
In Brisbane.
All right, I spent more time in Sydney, but I remember Sydney being real pricey, really, really pricey.
Pricey, man. You go out for breakfast. You want to get like a breakfast and a coffee. It's like $40.
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's a lot of money. That's Australian dollars, but yeah, the West. I don't see how it can keep going the way it's going. There's going to have to be some sort of correction at some point because you're just going to push everyone into poverty. I don't know how it can't keep the trajectory it's going. It can't keep going. It's unsustainable in my mind, but I don't know anything. But
I think you kind of do, though. I mean, I think we all do. The cat's out of the bag. It's like, I don't know who the government thinks they're fooling nowadays, or I don't know who you'd say is fooling people, but I mean, it's... people are fucking poor. Resources are running out. There's no money. Things are getting more expensive.
Industries are drying up.
Like, it's, it's wild now. Kind of a fun time in a weird way.
It is a fun time. And like politically wise, to be in America now in the next 4 years, I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean
it's way more interesting.
You're a comic. So like, this is a good 4 years coming up for you.
And also, having Trump in, you're going to get far more just ludicrousy. Is that a word? Ludicrous. Anyway, then fucking Biden, like Sleepy Joe. There's not a lot of material there.
No volatility in that guy. Yeah, no, that'll be. I don't know, man. I know people. I know a lot of the people I work with really hate Trump, but I'm indifferent to politics anyway because I think they're all trying to scam us, and he's going to be a lot more fun to watch.
I think they're all fucked. I don't think it matters who goes in, man. They're all corrupt. They're all looking up. Like I'm a Trump guy, but I'm under no illusion that he's not in it for himself. He's not in it to as if he's not in it to help all his mates, all his billionaire mates. They're all going to get richer, and it's fucked. But the more this happens, the more we see it, and the more something will eventually one day correct itself. It has to,
or not.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. When's enough? Like,
man, look at any civilization. There's always been some sort of big
boiling point.
Yeah, where it's gone to shit. Every civilization has had a peak and a fall. It's just hopefully for us it doesn't happen anytime soon, but there's always going to be some sort of correction at some point. I just don't know when, and I don't know.
Just think about it now. Think about the Boston Tea Party, right? No taxation without representation. Like, they weren't paying 40% of their paychecks in taxes back then, and then having to buy health care on top of it. Like, I'm wondering when the next tea party is. When's people going to start throwing tea in the water? Because things are weird here. Like I can't believe how much people put up with.
Well, the biggest thing from an outsider is how you guys don't have healthcare. That is the one thing that I think is like crazy.
It's crazy, and it's privatized.
Yeah,
the insurance in general doesn't make a lot of sense.
And you're getting robbed. Like I've had to buy some prescription medication here that I would have at home, and here it's probably, I don't know, 500% more expensive than what I would just get at home, just from a pharmacy.
Sure. So
not only do you not have healthcare, what healthcare you do have is extremely overpriced.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I've fortunately spent a lot of time overseas, and I try to get most of my medical stuff done there. Yeah, and as well as like whatever, I brought a lot of drugs back too. Because like, why pay that money? Yeah, I'd go get antibiotics and bring them back from Asia because you're paying $2 for a prescription that would cost you a fortune up here. So
yeah. I mean, we got to wrap this up, but I'm going to get you back on. I've got so many things I want to talk to you about.
I hope it was all right, man. Dude, I feel like I'm fucking fumbling through all this thing.
No, you're great. This is really good.
It's fun. It's good talking to you, too. Like, I really just wanted to kind of get to know you. Well, you seem like a pretty cool cat.
Thanks, man. Likewise. Hence why I want to get you on. Is there anything you want to plug while we're on here? I'm going to put your Instagram up. Tell everyone your Instagram.
My Instagram is Ponch, Ponch _ Saint, SAINT.
There you go.
That's it. And Ponch is my nickname, by the way. I don't know if you realize. And in the TV business, like, nobody knows me as Mike. Okay. But I just kind of wanted to get. I like my name. Yeah. So I'm going to use my real name as my stage name.
Absolutely. So. Yeah. And is there anything you want to plug that you got coming up or?
St. Mark's tonight, 7:30.
All right. Well, this will be.
We're gonna miss it.
We're gonna miss this, but man, it's been a pleasure. I can't wait to have you back on.
Yeah, thanks
you so much.
I appreciate it.
Check him out, guys. Check out his Instagram. Go see him at shows. He's a fucking funny cunt.
Believe it or not.
Looking forward to seeing what happens in the next few years.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah. But I'm interested to see what you guys do together too. This is it's all working together here. Yeah. So it's good.
100%. All right, guys. See you in the next one.
Hey, guys. Thanks for listening to this episode of Going After It with Cam Bird. Produced by Cam Bird, co-produced by Ryan Rizzuti and Jacqueline Laurie Edwards. Music by Brian Rigby. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe, and remember to hit that notification bell. And if you can, get after it.